I want to read you my inbox. Not all of it, of course. I'd like us both to live. But a representative sample, because I think it tells you everything about the moment we're in. This is from 1 week, and I've cleaned it up only to protect the guilty. Hi, Stephen. I'll keep this short. We're an AI-native platform revolutionizing code review for enterprise engineering teams. Would you be open for a quick 15 minutes Thursday? That's Monday. Here's Wednesday, same guy. Just floating this back to top of your inbox. Did you get a chance to see my note? We're helping Fortune 500 leaders 10x their developer velocity with autonomous AI agents. SOC 2 is in progress. SOC 2 is in progress. Sit with that one for a bit. We'll come back to it. And then Friday, because, there's always a follow-up on Friday. Hey, Steven, I don't want to be a pest. Side note, they always are. They're always a pest. But I'd hate for your team to miss out. Last chance to lock in founder pricing before we close the round. Are you the right person for this, or should I reach to someone else in the engineering org? Should I reach to someone else? That little threat at the end, the I'll just go over your head to your boss, from a man whose company did not exist 8 months ago. I work with a large defense contractor, Fortune 500, kind of place where the coffee is bad the way it feels deliberate, like security measure. And spam comes with the territory, it always has. If your title has the letters C, T, or O in it, and you're anywhere near a procurement budget, you are a watering hole, and everybody in the savannah knows it. And that's fine. That's the job. I made peace with that years ago. But it's gotten bad. It's gotten genuinely structurally bad in a way it wasn't even 3 years ago. And I've spent a while trying to figure out why. Because I don't think it's just that there are more grifters. I think something real changed underneath the grift. So that's today. Welcome back to Transmissions from Elysium. Pour something strong. This one's a field guide for the buyers who keep on getting hunted. And for the builders who've turned into the thing that they're hunting and maybe even haven't even noticed yet. I'm calling them the Lazombies. And you'll see why. It's the only horror movie joke I'm going to make. So enjoy it now, because after this, I'm going to be annoyingly sincere about economics. Let's start with something nice, because it won't last. People are lazy. And I want to defend that before I spend the next 20 minutes complaining about its consequences. Because the laziness is not the problem. The laziness is the entire foundation of the economy you and I both work in. Here's what I mean. You could change your own oil. You almost certainly don't. You could grow your own food, cut your own hair, sew your own clothes, even represent yourself in court. Most of you do none of those things. And you're not ashamed about it. You shouldn't be. Because somewhere along the line, you did the math that every functioning adult does without writing it down. My time is worth more spent on the things that only I can do than on the things anybody can do. That instinct, it's not a character flaw. That's the whole game. There's actual research on this. A study out of Harvard and a few other places published back in 2017 with the title, and I love this one, Buying Time Promotes Happiness. They surveyed something like 6,000 people across 4 countries, and then they ran an actual controlled experiment where they gave working adults $40 and told some of them to buy something material and others to buy themselves out of a chore. The people who bought back their time were measurably happier. Not the people who bought the stuff, the people who bought the time. And it held strongest for people who were stretched thin to begin with. So when somebody pays for a service they technically could have done themselves, they're not being weak, they're being correct. This is the rational core at the center of the entire software as a service industry. And I never want to lose sight of it, because I'm about to be very mean to a specific slice of that industry. And I don't want you to think I've turned into the guy who built his own mail server out of spite. I have built my own Haskell web server out of spite, don't ask. It was a mistake. I should have paid someone. The dishes did not do themselves while I was doing it. The reason why you buy software instead of building it is the same reason you buy the haircut. Because building it isn't the cost. Building it is the cheap part, the fun part, the part you can do in a weekend with coffee and a good playlist. The cost is the next 10 years, maintaining it, patching it, babysitting it at 2 in the morning when it fails over, documenting it so the next person doesn't quit, securing it. The cost is the long, boring, unglamorous tale of ownership, and paying somebody else to carry that tale is one of the smartest moves a leader can make. Hold on to that sentence. Building it is the cheap part. Owning it is the expensive part. Because it's the hinge the entire rest of this episode swings on. Everyone currently flooding my inbox has forgotten it. And a lot of them have forgotten it specifically because of AI. What actually changed? The bar moved. Let me take you back 3 years, which in this industry is roughly back in the Stone Age. 3 years ago, if you wanted to put a useful AI feature into a product, that was real hard work. You needed people who understood data science and even how to create their own models, the infrastructure to serve them, the plumbing to make any of it reliable. It was genuinely hard and genuinely expensive. Most organizations at that time did not have any talent sitting around to do it. So when a starter came along that had it figured out and they would rent it to you for a monthly fee, that was a godsend. That was exactly the trade we just talked about. You couldn't build it, or building it wasn't worth your time, so you paid people who could. Fast forward 2 years, and the explosion of AI software as a service last year made complete rational sense. I'm not going to pretend that it didn't. And then, past 6 months here, the bar has moved hard. The tooling caught up. We got agents that can write and run and fix their own code in a loop. And suddenly the thing that took a specialized team a quarter to stand up, you can prototype in an afternoon. The barrier to rolling your own didn't disappear. I want to be precise about this. But it dropped through several floors. The cheap part, it got even cheaper. Now, there's a real distinction inside this that I want to plant my flag on, because the words matter and the internet has made a mess of them. There's a difference between vibe coding and what I call agentic engineering. And you don't have to take my word for it. Take it from Andre Karpathy, who coined the term vibe coding just last year in the first place. As of early this year, he basically said that the term is already passé. His point, and it's a good one, is that the professional version of this isn't vibe coding. It's agentic engineering, where you get all the leverage out of the agents, but you do not compromise on the quality of the software. More oversight, not less. More scrutiny, not less. The agent is a power tool. The engineering is still, well, engineering. That distinction really is the whole thing, and I'm going to keep coming back to it. Vibe coding, and the phrase is cringeworthy, I'll be honest. It sounds like something that you'd shout before crashing a jet ski. Vibe coding is when you let the slot machine build this thing and you ship whatever comes out. Agentic engineering is when a person who actually knows what they're doing uses the same tools and then does the unsexy work of making sure the rest is real. It's the same engine, completely different driver. One of them gets you a genuinely valuable solution. The other one gets you my inbox, apparently. And here's the part that the AI mythicist crowd skips. It's not free, even now. Running these models costs money. Real, ongoing, per-use model. Gartner put out a forecast this spring, and I think it's the single most clarifying fact in the whole space. They project that by 2030, the cost to run inference on a big model will drop by more than 90%. 90% cheaper per token. But in the same breath, they say that the total spending on inference is going to go up tenfold, not down. Why? Because the agentic stuff, this is the good stuff, the autonomous loops that everybody's selling today, it chews through somewhere between 5 and 300 times more tokens per task than a plain chatbot does. The price per sip is collapsing, and everyone's drinking from a fire hose. So the bill goes up anyway, which means just build it yourself with AI is not the free lunch pitch decks imply. You trade a license fee you understand for a metered compute bill that scales with how much you use the thing. And that, by the way, is the opposite of how traditional software economics work. The hedge fund Man Group put out an analysis recently making exactly this point. Normal software has near zero marginal cost. You sign up one more user and it costs the company basically nothing. AI doesn't work like that. Every single use burns compute. There's a reason TechCrunch ran a piece this past summer where the founder of an AI coding startup described their margins as, I'm directly quoting here, absolutely abysmal. So that's the landscape. That's the bar to build has dropped. The cost to build has dropped. But the cost to own, that didn't go anywhere. It just changed shape from a salary line into a computer meter. And it's still sitting there at the end of the runway waiting for you. Remember the hinge? Building it is the cheap part? Everybody flooding my inbox has confused the cheap part getting cheaper with the expensive part going away. Patient zero. So there I was, minding my own business, and along comes this QA wizard. I'm being affectionate mostly. This is a real category of person, sharp, genuinely talented, the kind of engineer who automates their own job out of boredom and then gets ideas. And this one had built an AI-enabled code review tool, and he wanted us to buy it. And on the surface, it sounds great. Code review is a real bottleneck. AI is generally decent at catching a class of issues, and I am always in the market for something that makes the boring parts faster. So I did the thing I always do, which is I started peeling the onion. No proprietary model. Okay, fine. It's not disqualifying by itself. Plenty of good products sit on top of someone else's model. Keep peeling. No on-prem option, none. It phones home to a third party for every review, which at a defense contractor is roughly like proposing we conduct a classified discussions in the food court of a mall. I keep peeling. At the center of the onion, when I finally got there, a bundle of prompts, buried inside some agents wrapped around a GitHub pipeline. That's it. That's a product. That's the whole magic trick. A clever person had written some clever instructions, hidden them inside of automation, hung the automation off of GitHub, and now was pitching it to a Fortune 500 defense company as a platform, as a company, as something I should sign a multi-year contract for. And small aside, I cannot let this go, built on the GitHub pipeline, which is its own adventure, because not long ago, if you remember, GitHub managed to delete commit history during a bug. The actual history, the thing whose entire job is to never ever lose your history. I'm not building my regulated, audited, somebody could actually get hurt software supply chain on a foundation that has demonstrated it will occasionally eat the floor. I won't touch that integration with a 10-foot pole, and I've got some very long poles. Now, I want to be careful here because the QA wizard is not the villain of this story. The tool he built might genuinely be useful for somebody. The problem is that he built it. The problem is building it was smart, cheap, fun part. He did it well. The problem is what he thought it was. He built a nice feature and convinced himself he built an entire enterprise software company. He aimed a slingshot at a fortress and was confused about why the fortress wasn't returning his calls. So let me explain the fortress, because this is the part that's actually instructional and the part nobody pitching me seems to understand. Why I won't award you a contract. I want to buy your thing. I genuinely do. My life is easier if good tools exist and I can just pay for them. I am the customer the whole time of value money argument is talking about. I will absolutely buy software, installed tools, licensing products, things that make sense when it makes sense. But I'm not going to award a contract to some no-name SaaS that started up 8 months ago, has no backing, no track record, no history of actually hitting service level agreement, and, say it with me, has its SOC 2 in progress. In a defense contract, layer on CMMC, the cybersecurity certification the Department of Defense is now actively enforcing across the supply chain. Well, at least it did when I first wrote this episode. That's changed, but we won't talk about that here. These aren't bureaucratic hoops I invented to ruin your quarter. They are the load-bearing walls of trust. They are how an organization that cannot afford to be wrong decides who it lets inside. When I sign with a vendor, I am not buying your demo. The demo is the cheap part. We've established this. I'm buying the next 5 years. I'm buying, will you exist even in 18 months? When you go down at 3 a.m., is there a human on the other end contractually obliged, or is there some random Discord server in a shrug? When my auditor asks where the data goes, can you answer, or do you go pale? When you get it acquired or you fold, and most of you will fold, what happens to the thing my entire pipeline now depends on? Here's the math beneath my skepticism. It's not me being cynic, it's Gartner. They forecast that at least 30% of Gen AI projects get abandoned after the proof of concept. They forecast that over 40% of agentic AI products will be canceled by the end of 2027. Cost, unclear value, inadequate controls. And my personal favorite? Gartner estimates that of the tens of thousands of vendors that are there waving the word agentic around, only about 100 are real. The rest are doing what Gartner actually named agent washing, slapping the label on a chatbot or some RPA in a coat of paint. 100 real ones out of tens of thousands. So when you cold DM me, you are not promising opportunity I'm too dim to recognize. You are, statistically, one of the Lazombies. You are shambling towards my procurement budget with your arms out, moaning, "Enterprise!" And you have roughly the same odds of landing me as you do of running into the reincarnated zombie of Mother Teresa dancing in a go-go bar. It could happen. I would be amazed. I would take a photo. And this is the part I wish more founders heard before they wasted a year. That's fine. Because you're never supposed to be aiming at me. There is a real, hungry, totally legitimate market for what you built. It's just not the Fortune 500s. It's the small businesses. Maybe it's a mid-sized shop that doesn't have security org, doesn't run CMMC, doesn't need on-prem, and would generally love an AI code review helper for a reasonable monthly fee. That customer is real and you can win them this afternoon. Instead, you skip them because we sell to small businesses doesn't make the next pitch round look as sexy, and you went straight for the fortress with your slingshot. You're shooting well above your weight class. Drop a couple classes, you'll start winning fights, and you'll still be able to eat. Know your buyer. That's the lesson. That's a whole lesson right there. All right, I'm off my soapbox. So where does this come back to bite you? There's three ways that this does. Let's say you ignore all of that. Let's say you're not selling it to me. You're a leader and you're thinking about building or buying one of these things for your own work. And I want to walk you through the three traps because they stack, and the third one is where things really start to get dangerous. Trap one is that the quick win isn't quick. The demo is dazzling. It always is. You stand it up in an afternoon and it works and everybody claps, and then you shipped it and now you own it. And owning it is the part that nobody priced, the total cost of ownership. The model you built on gets deprecated. Your carefully tuned prompts start drifting because the thing underneath them changed. The egg cases pile up. The token bill then starts creeping in. And the bugs, oh my god, the bugs. Gartner predicts 2026 report had a number on this, and I keep quoting people until they're tired of me. They forecast that by 2028, this prompt-to-apt, citizen-to-developer style of building will increase software defects by 2,500%. We're not talking normal bugs. A whole new species. Code that is syntactically perfect. It runs clean. It passes tests. It looks right. And it is quietly, confidently wrong about your actual business rules and architecture. The kind of bug that passes every single test, then loses you a customer because they did the wrong thing. Gartner's phrase is that fixing these will eat the budget you set aside for innovation. The quick win wasn't a win. It was a loan, and the interest is coming due over the next 3 years. The second trap is this idea you're just going to toss it over the wall. This has been happening for decades, so this is nothing new. This is the organizational version of this. Somebody, a department, an eager VP, the QA wizard, buy or builds the shiny thing. It gets their quick win, takes their bow, and then they lob it over the fence to IT. Here, support this. Support what exactly? A tool with no vendor, no documentation, no SLA, no real owner. There's nobody to call. There's no contract. It's a stray dog somebody adopted and then dropped on your doorstep, and now it's yours forever. And it bites, and has rabies. IT didn't choose it. They didn't scope it. They can't fix it and can't kill it because 3 teams now secretly depend on it. Every one of these is a small permanent tax on the people whose actual job is keeping the lights on. And the third trap, this is the one that turns nuisance into an outbreak. AI has made everyone feel like a developer. And look, in a hopeful way, that's wonderful. The barrier dropped, more people can build, and that's genuinely good. Somebody out there wants a quick report, they can do it themselves. They don't have to come and pester IT for the next 6 months. But run it through the traps 1 and 2, and you see the problem. Everyone can now produce a quick win they can't maintain. Trap 1. And toss it over the wall to someone who never agreed to catch it. Trap 2. At scale. By everyone. All at once. That's not democratization. That's an outbreak. And it's not hypothetical. A security firm called Red Axis ran a scan this year of these quote-unquote vibe coding platforms, Lovable, Replit, and the rest. They looked at over 380,000 repositories and found around 5,000 of them were actual real corporate applications that someone had built and had actually shipped. And of those 5,000 applications, 2,000 of them, close to 40%, had no authentication, no access controls, no audit trails, just sitting there reachable by anyone with a browser. Some of them were leaking financial records, internal strategy docs, customer data, and in some cases, API keys and credentials. Axios and Wire both independently confirmed the finding. This is a Lazombie outbreak in one statistic. Thousands of little apps built in an afternoon by people who felt like developers for a day, deployed into an open, owned by no one, supported by no one, and quietly radioactive. That's the horde. It doesn't arrive as one big monster. It arrives as 10,000 small ones, each of which look like a quick win the day it was born. Now, let me defend the thing I just spent 20 minutes attacking. Because if you walk away from this thinking, AI SaaS is bad, wrapper's bad, build nothing, buy nothing, you've misheard me. And you've landed somewhere just as dumb as the founders I'm making fun of. The SaaS market is real, and it is glorious, and most of it is exactly the rational trade we started with. people sensibly paying other people to carry the expensive tail. That's good economics and good leadership, and wrapper is not an insult. Some of the best products in the world are technically wrappers. A thin layer of a model plus a thick layer of everything that actually matters. The workflow, the integrations, the data you've earned, the trust, the support contract, the fact that you answer the phone. Andrew Chen, the A16Z guy, wrote a piece he literally titled Revenge of the GPT Wrappers, and his argument is sound. The model is a commodity, and the durable value was always the unglamorous wrapping, the distribution, the relationships, the boring stuff that takes years. So the sin was never building a wrapper. The sin is building the thin part and skipping the thin part altogether, and then pretending that the thin part is a fortress. Pretending a clever prompt is a moat. Pretending SOC 2 in progress is the same as SOC 2. Pretending the fun afternoon is the whole company. And I'd be lying if I didn't connect this to a bigger weather system briefly, because it's the same disease. MIT's Nanda Group put out a report last year, and I'll be fair, the headline number has been argued over, but they found something like 95% of enterprise generative AI pilots delivered no measurable impact on the bottom line. Another study this year found about 90% of firms reported no real productivity bump from AI over the past 3 years. Meanwhile, OpenAI has committed to something like $1.4 trillion in spending against a revenue number that's a rounding error next to it. The whole top of the market is doing the zombie move at planetary scale, confusing a dazzling demo with a durable business and confusing we built the cheap part with we own something. I've covered the AI wrapper as interface a couple episodes back in Invasions of the Interface Snatchers. That one was about these things that they do to the user. This episode, however, is what they do to the balance sheet and to the poor soul in IT who has to support them. It's a different monster, but it's the same franchise. So here's where I land. If you're a buyer, a leader with a budget, and a phone that won't stop buzzing, your job is judgment. Not enthusiasm, not fear, judgment. Build the things that are core to you and worth owning the tail of. Buy the things that you aren't from the people who will still exist when you need them. And when a stranger DMs you that they're going to 10x your velocity with autonomous agents and a SOC 2 that's in progress, you're allowed to simply not reply. You're allowed to let the Lazombies shamble past. It's not rude, it's basic IT hygiene. And if you're a builder, if you made the clever thing and you're proud of it, and you should be, then be honest about your weight class. The tool you use was real, the afternoon was real, the leverage was real, but AI doesn't turn your feature into a fortress. It just amplifies whatever you already are. If you're a real company doing the thick, boring, expensive work, AI makes you a faster real company. And if you're a prompt in a trench coat, AI makes you a faster prompt in a trench coat. And there are thousands of you now, all moaning the same word, all reaching for the same fortress that was never, ever going to open the door. Know your buyer, own the tail, or don't pick it up. And for the love of God, finish your SOC 2 before you tell me it's done. I'll see you next time. Watch your inbox, and if a founder ever tells you they have no competition and no maintenance cost and a moat made entirely of prompts, back away slowly. That's not a company, that's a bite, and the disease is spreading.